There is one miracle of Jesus that does not look like any of the others. He healed the sick, he fed the hungry, he calmed storms, he raised the dead. Every miracle of his gives something, restores something, multiplies something. And then one morning, in the last week before his passion, Jesus walked up to a tree, found nothing on it, and spoke a sentence over it, after which the tree withered to the roots. And the way Mark tells it makes the whole thing harder, not easier, because Mark adds one detail that makes the scene look unfair. And that very detail, the one that troubles everyone, is the key to the whole story. The scene is short. Now the next day, when they had come out from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he would find something on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. Mark 11:12-13. In response, Jesus said to it, "Let no one eat fruit from you ever again." And his disciples heard it. Mark 11:14. The tree had no figs because it was not the season for figs. It was doing exactly what a fig tree is supposed to do at that time of year, and Jesus cursed it anyway. It sounds like blaming someone for being asleep at midnight, like punishing a tree for keeping the calendar. That is why this is one of the passages people find hardest to accept. At first glance, it looks like a tree condemned for no reason. But that sentence is not the problem, it is the solution. To see it, you need to know one thing about fig trees. A fig tree does not work like most trees we know. With us, the leaves usually come first and the fruit follows. The fig goes the other way around. It first puts out small green knobs on the old branches back in March before it comes into leaf. Those knobs can be eaten. They are not particularly pleasant, but travelers and farmers ate them. Only after them do the leaves come, and the real, ripe figs do not arrive until the end of June, which means the leaves on a fig tree are a sign. They announce that the early fruit is already there. A bare tree at that time of year promises nothing. A tree in full leaf promises a passing traveller a meal. With that in mind, look at what Mark describes. Jesus sees a fig tree in leaf. From a distance, it looks like the most fruitful tree in the area because it is the only one making a claim. At that time of year, a fig tree should not yet be in leaf, and this one stands there fully dressed. Jesus comes near, reaches for what the leaves had promised, and finds nothing. No ripe figs, and not even the early knobs that should have come before the leaves. Only leaves. And that is why the sentence that troubles everyone is exactly what exposes the tree. If it was not the season for figs, then no honest tree should have been in leaf either. A bare tree would have promised nothing. This one promised and had nothing. Jesus did not curse the fig tree because it was empty, but because it advertised what it did not have. And now the reason the whole scene stops being about a tree at all, Mark writes in a way that once you notice it, you cannot stop seeing. He begins one story, interrupts it with a second, then comes back and finishes the first. He sets one thing inside the other because he wants you to read them together. The fig tree is one of those. And look at what he placed in the middle. Jesus curses the tree that morning. That is the first part. Then Mark moves straight to something else. So they came to Jerusalem. Then Jesus went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. Mark 11:15. That is the middle. And then the next morning, Mark returns to the first story. Now in the morning as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. Mark 11:20. That is the second part, closing the whole. Mark did not do that by accident. By the very structure of his text, he is telling you that these two stories are one story. The fig tree is the temple is the fig tree. Walk through it and the parallel is almost exact. Jesus comes to the tree hungry, looks for fruit and finds impressive leaves with nothing underneath. Then he walks into the temple, looks for the fruit a house of God should produce and finds the same thing. The building was breathtaking. One of the most impressive structures of the ancient world. Courts full of people, sacrifices being offered, money being changed, everything running. From a distance, it looked like the most fruitful place on earth. It was covered in leaves. But Jesus came close, the way he came close to the tree, and reached in for the real fruit, and he found a marketplace. And pay attention to what he actually said, because it sharpens the picture. Is it not written, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations," but you have made it a den of thieves? Mark 11:17. For all nations. The money changers and the sellers had set up in the outer court, the only part of the temple where foreigners were allowed to enter. That was the space for those on the outside, for the man from another nation who wanted to come and seek the God of Israel. And that was exactly the space that had been turned into a noisy exchange. The people the court existed for had nowhere left to stand. The fruit a house of God should bear is an open door, and the door had been buried under commerce dressed in religious clothing. The leaves had crowded out the fruit, literally, in the layout of the building itself. And that image was not new. For centuries, the fig tree had been a picture of the nation in the prophets. When the nation was right with God, they pictured people sitting peacefully under their own vine and their own fig tree. And when the nation drifted, they reached for the same image to describe the loss. "I will surely consume them," says the Lord. "No grape shall be on the vine, nor figs on the fig tree, and the leaf shall fade, and the things I have given them shall pass away from them." Jeremiah 8:13. No fruit, a withered leaf. And then it happened literally to one tree, in front of witnesses, in the week in which Jesus pronounced judgment on the temple itself. Jesus did not lose his temper because he was hungry. He was doing what the prophets had always done. He took a fig tree and made it speak. The difference is that the prophets spoke the image and he performed it. And now the most important part, the one that keeps this passage from being misread. Jesus told another story about a fig tree, and in that one, everything goes differently. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. Then he said to the keeper of his vineyard, "Look, for 3 years I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree and find none. Cut it down. Why does it use up the ground?" Luke 13:6-7. 3 years without fruit. The owner is finished with it. But then the keeper of the vineyard speaks up. "Sir, let it alone this year also, until I dig around it and fertilize it. And if it bears fruit, well. But if not, after that you can cut it down." Luke 13:8-9. That fig tree has nothing either. And it does not receive a curse. It receives another year, and a man who will kneel down in the soil and work around its roots. The axe has not been put away, but someone has stepped between it and the tree. Put them side by side now, because together they show you where the line is. The empty fig tree in the parable receives mercy, time, and a gardener in the dirt. The leafy fig tree on the road receives a curse. And the difference between them is not the amount of fruit, neither one has any. The difference is that one was honest and the other was not. One stood there empty and admitted it and received patience. The other dressed itself up as though it were full and received judgment. So this passage does not ask the question most people expect. It does not ask whether your life is full of fruit right now. It asks something quieter and harder. Does what people see on you match what is underneath? Is there fruit under your leaves, or have you simply become very good at making it look as though there is? Because a tree that has nothing and does not pretend otherwise is given a gardener by God. He digs around it, he feeds it, he gives it time. What does not pass is the gap between what you display and what you are. And now notice something that is almost always skipped. When Peter sees the withered tree the next morning, Jesus does not tell him to try harder. And Peter, remembering, said to him, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered away." Mark 11:21. And the answer he gets goes in an entirely different direction. Have faith in God. Mark 11:22. Not be more fruitful, not work on looking better. Faith. And immediately after that, he adds something else. And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses. Mark 11:25. That is an interesting ending for a story about a withered tree, faith and forgiveness, two things that cannot be seen from the outside. Jesus is telling them where the root is. Fruit does not come from inventing more leaves. It comes from below the ground, where nobody is looking, in whether you trust him and whether you are carrying something against someone. Deal with the root and the fruit comes on its own. Deal with the leaves and you have done nothing. That morning, Jesus was walking the road toward Jerusalem, looking for something real. He still does. He comes close. He looks under the leaves. He is not impressed by the canopy and he is not fooled by the display. He is looking for fruit, and he is patient with the tree that has none yet and does not pretend that it does. What grieves him is the tree that dressed itself up to hide that it is empty. The next morning, the disciples passed that fig tree and saw that it had withered to the roots. Not only the leaves, the whole tree. Because what is only a display on the outside is already dead on the inside. The curse simply made visible what was already true. And the good news buried in this story is that the one who reads trees so honestly is also the gardener who kneels in the soil and asks for one more year. He is not looking for a perfect harvest. He is looking for something true. And he is willing to dig around your roots and feed you and wait.